Welcome back to Rounding the Bases, Extra Innings. Joel Goldberg, Ed O'Malley. We've talked about the book a little bit. I want to talk about it a little bit more and then have some fun with a few other questions. But you talked in the audio version of the podcast, and I encourage everybody to listen to that, about 16 years in the making. How daunting of a task was that to be able to take all of that knowledge and all of those lessons learned with Julia and piece this together?
You know, anybody who's written a book knows it's hard, and you just gotta be dialed in and focus on it, and every day work on it. And we had our rhythm for how we did that together. So it was daunting, but it's rewarding too. You know, writing is the hardest thing I've ever done and the most enjoyable thing I've ever done. Yeah. So it was a treat. Yeah,
I'm with you. You got more experience on it than me, but I've got one down and another one on the way, and it is daunting. It's process, right? And then you come out on the other side, and it feels pretty good. You hope, at least.
Yeah, right.
That it does. All right. Second question, as we round the bases, a recovered politician, if we want to call it that. But it feels like there's no bipartisanship today. Right. Everything is left or right, and very little in the middle. I think there are people that want to be in the middle, but it's just not safe politically to be in the middle. You were able to experience that. How were you able to do that? And I'm sure there's a lot of lessons learned in terms of leadership. I wish that would apply today to politicians.
Yeah, you know, it's tough. I mean, politicians don't like when I say what I'm about to say, but they are lagging indicators of what's going on in society. They are not leading indicators. They, and I used to be one, they respond to what their voters, the people who elect them, not all of their constituents, but literally the ones who are responsible for putting them into office, the voters who gave them the 51% or whatever their percentage victory was. They are responsive to them. There's a human nature, right? You respond to those who give you your authority. So when you look at if you're not happy with the legislature or Congress, people don't like this, but it's harder than, it's a more difficult challenge than just saying, those people in Congress or those people in the legislature are bad or not working well. They reflect society. So if we think Congress is dysfunctional and not working across difference well enough, that's actually what's going on in our communities. And I think most people know that. Most people know that we have become so segregated. We have self-sorted into these meta tribes, if you will, these meta camps. And it's very hard to find interaction across those. In fact, there aren't many places outside of like a sporting event or a few other places. The Kansas Leadership Center is one that brings people together from all the political sides. There aren't many places we literally come into good, productive discourse with, quote unquote, the other anymore, which is a massive problem. So for those in politics, they feel like it can be risky to work with the other side. I think if we want to see more of that, which I certainly do, as voters and constituents, we need to say it's what we care about, that our expectation is that you will work with the other and find common ground. You know, we can't get to higher ground in this country unless we get to some common ground first.
Yeah, I mean, you used to always hear about the good old days of, in DC, for instance, reaching across, you might fight on the House floor, and then you're going out for drinks afterwards. And It feels like nobody does that anymore. Because if you were seen associating with somebody else, you get shredded on social media. How dare you do something like that, right? I mean, most of these people used to be friends.
Well, it gets to a key leadership idea that we talk about in the book, that leadership is disappointing your own people at a rate they can't absorb. Okay, leadership is about change. Leadership is about mobilizing a system to change, and it's really easy to say, hey, those people over there, they have to change and do something different. We're fine. Real leadership is about saying to your own people, you know what, we're going to have to take some hits here so we can find common ground with those people over there that you don't like, and don't hate me too much for trying to negotiate this connection. But that's why it takes so much skill, and that's why leadership is rare. It is disappointing your own people at a rate they can't absorb, and knowing how to do that is part of the challenge of exercising leadership.
Okay, I'll go a little bit lighter on the third one. You referenced towards the end of the audio podcast a morning routine. It's something that a lot of people struggle with, and others have mastered if there is such a thing. But I do think routine is important in some form or another in this crazy world that we live in. And yes, the world's always been crazy, but we're being pulled in a lot of directions, and attention. We talked about listening and all of that. What is your go-to morning routine to lock in?
Yeah, I'm up first one in my household before everybody else. Go downstairs, get the pot of coffee going, and I sit in the same spot in our family room, and I read. I read a number of things every morning. I read a little bit of the Bible every morning. I read a little bit of a spiritual oriented book. I read a little bit of a broader nonfiction book, and I read a little bit of a novel. Every morning. And then I spend a little bit of time in prayer. And sometimes it might only be 5 or 10 minutes with each of those books, but I like the breadth of touching a number of different types of writing. And it just helps me feel centered. It's about a 45-minute process, and then it's off to exercise, and then it's off for the day. But that morning time is critical for me. I don't know how I could be present in my work without that quiet time each morning.
Interesting. Really, really unique, and everybody's got a different version of it, which is cool. Okay. Last thing, we've talked a lot about the book When Everyone Leads. Not your first book, additional books as well for the common good, redefining civic leadership. Your leadership edge, lead anytime, anywhere, and what's right with Kansas everyday citizens transforming their state. So, are there more in the works?
There will be. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but I just love the process. And what I love about writing, and Joel, you might have realized this as well with your writing, it forces you to clarify your ideas. And I encourage a lot of people when I'm working with executives, often I encourage them to write, whether they ever publish something or not, but it forces you to get clear. It's also a very vulnerable act. When you do share it with someone, you really know what people think. And that can be hard sometimes, but there'll be more to come. Not sure what they're going to be, but it's a passion. It's a passion.
Not trying to force you into anything, just curious, and expected there to be a yes, there will be more, because if it's in you, it's definitely in you. I'm not to that point yet, but there'll be more. Well, I know there's another one coming, but then there'll probably be that point of, do you ever stop? Who knows? We shall see. But we'll look forward to that whenever it comes. Again, the book is When Everyone Leads, How the Toughest Challenges Get Seen and Solved. You can learn more about that. You can get it anywhere, but just check out the website, kansasleadershipcenter.org. Check out the audio version of our podcast. Again, Ed, thanks so much for spending time on Rounding the Bases.
Joel, what a joy. Thank you. Great to be with you.